Well, good morning, Westridge. Well, it's good to see you today. I'm Lance Hurley. I'm the Executive Director of Ignite Church Planting and a friend of the church. I do love Westridge. What a great place. I was telling Scott earlier this morning, there's just something intangible here about the presence of God that touches me every time. So thank you for letting me be here with you. And today, we are beginning a new series for the month of July. Earlier this year, as I was doing my morning Bible reading, I began to write down little verses or little passages of Scripture that just touched me, and they each contain a little truth that I think it's a gem of truth that will provide wisdom and strength as we walk along the journey of life. So I started to write these down, and then I couldn't figure out a title for the message. And I was talking back and forth with Michael, and he said, "How about summer trail mix?" I said, "That works for me. That works for me." Trail mix is really cool stuff. It's made up of a variety of things. See how colorful that is? Isn't that beautiful? Because this contains my favorite things, chocolate M&Ms. Okay, there's just something about the chocolate. There's healthy trail mix too. I prefer chocolate for giving me energy as I kayak or hike or just walk around. The beauty of trail mix, though, is there is a variety in every handful, right? Whether it's nuts, granola, dried fruit, well, I'm not going to throw it away on the stage. Anyway, and chocolate, okay, and chocolate. So that's what this series is going to be all about. It's a variety of topics found in these 1 or 2 verse teachings. And my hope is that we'll all find something that will help us navigate the journey of life a little more clearly, a little more direct, a little more successfully. I think it's important we have these teachings in our backpack as we journey along because they will help us. Strength, guidance, even help us recalibrate at times because we all get off at times, right? I'm speaking about myself more than anything here. Today, the familiar verse we're going to look at is a great recalibration verse. So let me tell you a story about recalibration. A couple weeks ago, we had our grandchildren for the weekend. Garrett is 6, Michaela is 3. We went to Brookfield Zoo, and while we were there, we went through the new arachnid exhibit, okay? After you exit that exhibit, there is a people-sized maze on the other end of it. Okay, so I had taken a picture, and Darla was approaching the maze with the children, so I get into the maze about 20 steps behind them to hear Darla doing this. Garrett, Michaela. So I step in where she's at, and she said, I stepped into the maze, I've lost them both, they both went running as fast as they could. Now, I was very supportive of that moment of time. I looked at her and said, come on, you have one job to do. And then I said, okay, we'll find them. No, we'll find them. You go this way, I'll go that way, we'll find them. So I could hear her yelling, Garrett. And pretty quick, Michaela comes running by, so I just scoop her up, okay? I said, okay, you stay with Grandpa for a minute or two. A little later on, Garrett came running by, Darla got him. Now, she stood there with the 2 of them. She recalibrated them. Does that make sense? She said, you are not to run away from Grandma when you get into a people-sized maze. Now, Garrett didn't understand that a bit. She just said, stay right here beside me. We're going to find this together. We finally did get our way out, and we had fun. And I got a great story to share, right? Okay, that's what it's all about. I think these words of Jesus that he spoke, and by the way, he spoke these in the midst of one of the most famous passages of all time, the Sermon on the Mount, Matthew 5, 6, and 7. And this little gem, this little nugget of a verse occurs just right there in the middle of it in chapter 7, verse 12. Here's what Jesus said. In everything, do to others what you would have them do to you. For this sums up the law and the prophets. This is the golden rule. And I want to break this verse down by looking at it piece by piece because I think this little gem is something that will not only bless us personally, it'll bless all the relationships we have with people as we go around. Now, to begin with, though, I want to look at the end of the verse to start with, okay? So I've got a listing of items up here. Now, I want you to look at these items here. You tell me what they all have in common. Okay, give me one word that describes those. Tell me. Fruit. Okay, great descriptor of that. Okay, how about the next one? Okay. Bad. Well, come on, the Eagles won the Super Bowl last year. Okay, yeah, okay. These all describe what? Okay, it's all football teams, right? Professional football teams. You want to get a little more succinct. Okay, one more. Okay, what type of coffee? Okay, this is Starbucks. All Starbucks coffee blends. Okay, now here's the deal. There's all individual things up there, but there is a one-word descriptor that describes them all. And this is what Jesus says about the golden rule. He said, in everything, do to others what you have to do. This sums up the law and the prophets. In other words, Jesus said, all the law and the prophet could be summed up by this one little phrase, do to others what you want them to do to you. Now, here's the deal. The golden rule, I believe, will impact every relational aspect of our lives. Our interaction with spouse and family, interaction with neighbors, interaction with coworkers, interaction with friends, neighbors, even amongst our church family, if we practice it. It works with those we know most intimately. It works with those we meet for the very first time. It is a great practice. Living these simple words of Jesus impact not only ourselves, but all those we come in contact with. So, realize there is a key to putting this into practice. Now, here's something you're not going to hear too often at church. Today, it's all about thinking about myself. Okay, I want you to say it together. I want to think about who? Myself. Okay, today we're going to think about myself. And I'll explain that a little later, okay? Because I know you don't hear that too often in church. So let's just think about me, okay? So let's break it down. The first thing I recognize is there is a measuring instrument for the golden rule. Now, I brought some different items of measure here with me today, okay? What is this called? Measuring cup, right? Yeah, this is 1 cup, so it measures volume. Now, I brought my thermometer from my office. Well, it's pretty nice in here. Okay, now, so what does this measure? Okay, it's all about temperature the last couple of days, right? All right, so yeah, measures temperature, okay? How about this? We measure time all the time, don't we? Okay? When we get toward the end of this, you'll say, okay, Lance, you've spoken enough. Okay, and that's time, right? Okay, so it measures time. And then last but not least, we measure distance, right? We measure distance in a lot of different varieties. Miles, okay? We measure, if you're in Europe, kilometers, which I don't even know what that means. And then also we have, okay, measuring tape. Okay, so we measure all kinds of things. Now, there is a measuring instrument for the golden rule. Here's what Jesus said, in everything do to others what you would have them do to you. Now, I'm pretty good at determining what's best for Lance, okay? I know what I like. I know what I don't like. I know what feels comfortable with me. I know what doesn't feel good to me. Now, when I get up to the front of a store, guess which line I look for? Tell me. Why? Because I want to get out of there, right? Okay, I want to get out of Walmart as quickly. Okay, anyway, okay. When you're in traffic and you see cars maneuvering back and forth, which line do you get in? Okay, the fastest, because you want to get where you're going the quickest you can. I know what's convenient for me. I know what I like. When I get hungry, guess what I do? Okay, when I get cold, guess what I do? Okay, when I get hot, that's going to be a better thing for today. We have a temperature module in our vehicle. I can turn the temperature whatever I want to for me. My wife can do whatever she wants to for her. It's perfect that way. Okay, it's perfect. I'm an expert on what I like for myself. So here's what I know about Jesus' statement. The measuring instrument for determining the golden rule and who I practice it to and where I practice it is all based on me. I am the filter for my interactions with other people. I don't think I'm too different from anyone here when I say, I want to be loved. I want to be appreciated. I want to be noticed by others. I want to be treated well. I want to be included. I know what I like. And what Jesus says here, if you know what you like, that's what you need to extend to other people. It's very simple. So I'm the filter. If I don't like being alone, you know what I need to do? I need to open my eyes to those around me who may be lonely. If I don't like being treated poorly, guys, we see this all the time, don't we? If I don't like being treated poorly, then maybe I need to treat others better. And you can fill in that blank with any kind of thing, okay? I want to make sure that I am doing to others what I want done to myself. Simple measuring device. What I like, that's what I need to extend. Now, Jesus starts it, though, with a very, very challenging statement. Here's what he says. In everything, do. The beginning of this statement gives us the scope of the mission he's called us to. In everything, we're to treat others as we want to be treated. Now, that's a pretty exclusive statement, right? So tell me, when are we supposed to do good to everyone else? Okay? At what situation am I not to do good to other people? Basically, Jesus says, no, you don't ask that question. Basically, Jesus says, here's what you do. Everything you encounter, in everything, you're to treat others the way you want to be treated. Talk about challenging, right? This is unheard of, by the way, back in those times. The world at this point in time had heard other teachers use this type of thinking, but look at what the other teacher said. Confucius, what you do not want done to yourself, do not do to others. Rabbi Hillel, a great Jewish rabbi, what is hateful to you, do not do to anyone else. This is the whole law. All the rest is just commentary. Now, these statements take a negative look at it. Basically, to do these statements here, to live this type of life, all you have to do is do nothing. Okay? You can be very passive. Hey, I don't want to have this done to me. I'm not going to do that to others. But there's a great difference between what Jesus said and what these guys said. Because Jesus took what was passive and turned it into active. Because here's what he said, in everything, do. Jesus called his people to action. Jesus did what he always does. He turns things upside down. He just raises the bar and says, listen, you can do this with me inside you. Basically what he's telling us to do, we've got to keep our eyes open. Let me tell you a story. I was driving to the airport for a flight to Seattle one day. I was a little late getting away, so I knew it was going to be close. And as I pulled out of the driveway, I saw this little boy toddling across the street down from our house. And I looked around and didn't see anybody with the little guy. And I just thought to myself, that doesn't look right. I'm pretty sharp, okay? So I pulled over, walked over to the little guy, and noticed he was chasing styrofoam peanuts across the road, you know, the kind that come in packing boxes, right? So he was chasing those across the road. So I went over to him, and I knelt down in front of him and said, hey, buddy, how you doing? He looked at me, and he babbled something because he was only about 18 months old, okay? So I said, I knew it wasn't going to do much good to help him ask him where he lived because he couldn't tell me. So I scooped him up and I said, okay, bud, let's try and figure out where you come from. So I scooped him up, I parked my car, scooped him up, and then went on down the road. I knocked on the first door I came to. And I held him in my hands, and somebody came to the door, and I said, hey, I found him wandering in the neighborhood. Do you know, is he yours, or does he belong somewhere? Do you know? And the guy looked at him and said, no, he's not ours. I think maybe down the road, right, the next couple of houses. I said, okay, all right. So I walked up to the house he pointed to, and I knocked on the front door. And I could see the mom coming toward the front door. And the expression on her face when she saw me holding her child was, I don't want to say it was priceless, it was scary, okay? Because of one of those, what are you doing with my kid? And she came to the door, she threw it open. I said, ma'am, I found him wandering down the street. And she said, oh. She turned back to the house and she said, who left the back door open? So, and then she turned to me and said, thank you so much. I said, hey, no problem. So I went on my way, traveled to the airport, and I remember thinking as I pulled away that day, you know, I'd want someone to do that for my child if that was my situation, if he was wandering in the street. Basically, that's what we're talking about here. In everything, do. When you see a possible situation where we can play a positive role, do. When you see an opportunity to make a difference in somebody's life by extending yourself, do. It's really easy to become passive. It's super easy to become passive. We see so much stuff going around us at times that we even wonder, we're overwhelmed. We don't know what our little touch might do to somebody, if it really would make a difference at all. But I'll tell you what, Jesus said, you are a person of action. Do. Now, who are we to do for? Jesus said, in everything, do to who? Others. Now, that's a pretty inclusive thing too. Let me paint a couple of pictures for you, okay? So we're in Indianapolis this past week at a convention, my wife and I. We were checking out of our hotel, getting ready to get on the road, go see our grandchildren who we love dearly. And we go out in the lobby of the hotel, we were on floor 12. Come out of the lobby, have all of our suitcases ready to go. And there's a family out there, and all of a sudden the dad wheels this huge cart around the corner, filled with stuff. The elevator dings and begins to open up, and the lady looked at me, and I said, ma'am, you go ahead. And the dad looks at me and said, are you sure? I said, absolutely. So they all get on. And I looked at Darla and said, hey, we just did the golden rule, right? We did the golden rule. And right after that, the other elevator opened. It was perfect because that one was empty. Okay? Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Okay, let me paint another scenario for you. So we're driving down I-65. And there's construction up ahead. And it's telling us to all get in one lane, right? And so we got in one lane. Now, when you get in one lane, there's always people who are going to drive by as fast as they can on the other side. Okay, you're feeling me, right? Okay, so we get down to where it's merging. And people are sitting there with their right turn signal on. What do? Yeah, you just ignore them, you look the other way, and no. So here's what I did, okay? I let the space go, and I went like this. Right? Because you want done for yourself what you do to others, even when you don't feel like it. I had a friend who got fired earlier this year from his church. And when I heard what had happened, I called him immediately. I was out in Southern California. And I called him. Because that's what I want done for me. In everything, do to others what you would have them do to you. See, when we do to others what we want done, we show people we value them. I read a story about Muhammad Ali. He went to visit a couple of prisons one Sunday. And the writer asked him why he was going. He said, why are you doing this, champ? And Ali replied, hey, all them people are forgotten. Somebody's got to worry about them. One of the prisons was for women, and all the inmates were lined up to see the champ, oohing and eyeing as he went by. The writer said, boy, there were some good-looking women there. But as Ali passed, he kissed, and this is the way he put it, he kissed only the ugly ones. And later on, the writer asked him to explain why. He said, champ, why'd you kiss only the ugly women? And Ali responded, no one ever kisses them. And now they can remember that Ali kissed them. Now, say what you will about ego. There's plenty of that there, right? Okay? But he was showing something about valuing people, wasn't he? Loving the unlovable and treating with kindness those who have probably been overlooked most of their life is what practicers of the golden rule do. Jesus lived the golden rule. He came to earth from heaven born as a helpless infant who was cared for by his earthly mother and father. He grew up through all the stages of life that we all face, and when the time came, he stepped out and began his public ministry. And I want you to think of the way he treated others. Those who were closest to him were those that others in society looked down on. Fishermen, tax collectors, those who came from various political backgrounds. But he listened to people. He enjoyed people. He hung out with people. He must have been fun to be around because he was invited to other people's houses all the time. He welcomed into his presence those with colorful and questionable pasts and made them feel important and loved. He was always willing to tell a story or laugh with a friend. And even the smallest child, He refused to turn his back on. Jesus set the example for how we are to live gracefully as we practice this simple gem of truth. So guys, if we want to know how to treat others, it's all about us. It's all about us. How do I like to be treated? That's the way I need to treat others. So proactively, we need to go after this type of living. Don't wait for it to come from others. You do. I do. We must do to others what we want done. So it puts us, living this way puts us in the shoes of other people. It allows us to give others the benefit of the doubt. I think we can all remember times when we've been less than lovable ourselves, right? Okay? I mean, I certainly can. The golden rule living is the only kind of living that helps us overlook wrongs done to us and keeps us doing right to others even if they don't respond. You see, this is living Jesus calls his followers to, and it's what sets us apart as his follower. For none of us can do this under our own power. It must be the strength of the Spirit flowing in us and through us that allows us to live this way. And by the way, it's really just a lot of little things we do. I was at Dairy Queen yesterday in Sista Park. And on my way out, I had told the girl behind the counter, I said, hey, you have a good day today. And she just lit up. Big smile, said, oh, thank you. Thank you. You too. Because I'll tell you what, most people don't do that to her. I could tell that because of the way she responded. It's a lot of little things. Simple statement. In everything, do to others what you want to have them do to you. Simple in statement, difficult to practice. Now you may be thinking, come on, Lance. You don't know the people in my life that you're asking me to do this to, right? Right? Okay. I don't, but I'll tell you what, I've got some of those others too, okay, in my life, right? Here's what I want to challenge you to do today, okay? Here's what I want to challenge you. Here's the big ask for this weekend. In your sphere of influence, I want to ask you to try putting into practice the golden rule just one day. Okay? For one day, when you wake up in the morning, I want you to pray, Lord, please help me to do in everything to do to others what I would have them do to me today, just today. Okay, I'm not asking you to do it for a week. Try one day. Try one day. If it gets really tough, try an hour at a time. Okay, honestly. But just see what happens. See what happens. See what happens around you, but most importantly, see what happens in you as you try to live this way. Oh, it's not easy. It's not easy at all. But I'll tell you what, it can change the environment around you as you put this type of living into practice. Try it one day. Try it one day. I'm going to try it. I'm going to try it tomorrow. Okay? See, early on I said putting this type of statement into practice will have a profound impact on us. And it impacts those we come in contact with. It impacts us personally. So when I practice this golden rule, I'm going to be more understanding. I'm going to be more accommodating. I'm going to be more patient. Because that's the way I'd want to be treated. You know, to close today, by the way, tell me stories next week. I get to come back next week, which I'm very excited about. Tell me stories in between services next week of what happened as you put it into practice, okay? Because that's really what it's about. When we put the word into practice in our lives, things happen. So I want you to remember 3 body parts. First of all, your eyes. Look for opportunities, okay? Your hands. When you see an opportunity, stretch yourself out and get involved. And finally, your feet. Because your feet are going to move you forward into that opportunity. It's not easy. Remember, we're not alone. We don't do this under our own strength. But with Jesus inside of us through his Spirit, powerful things happen. Let me pray for you. Father, thank you so much for your word. These simple truths that are so profound. I'm thankful for the calling you've given to us. I'm thankful that we do not have to navigate these waters on our own. You know, you helps us. It's you who empowers us. And Lord, as we have opportunity this next week, let us to practice this golden rule, this rule that truly is golden because it affects us, it affects those around us so profoundly. In the powerful name of Jesus we pray. Amen.